Welcome to The Lumber Word, where industry veterans Matt Beamer, Gregg Riley, Charles Dillatore, and Ashley Buckhold dissect the world of commodity lumber each week. We bring you up-to-date insights on supply, demand, and market trends, plus use our combined experience to tell you what it all means. Join us for informative and entertaining discussions that guarantee to make you wiser about all things lumber.
Everybody, welcome to this week's episode of The Lumber Word, episode number 120. Boys, we skipped a week.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Matt was traveling.
Couldn't get the schedule reconciled.
I heard Charles was out cow tipping. He was out cow tipping.
He may be. He may be. You were down in Texas, Matt, right? Or down in the traveling through the South?
A couple weeks ago. Yeah. That was interesting because I go there 3-4 times a year, and so I kind of know what I'm looking for and what I expect to see. And this year was kind of medium to light inventories in general. The job shipper inventories are way down. A lot of times I go down there and there's 3 or 4 million feet in this reload and 4 or 5 million feet in that reload that's just staged for a job and it hasn't started yet. But that was not the case at all this year. So that's a change. And then, like the dealer inventory seemed to be kind of, again, moderate to light. So the carrying less inventory strategy seems to be working.
Yeah, I mean, agreed. And I know one thing we were talking about, Matt, is basically since we left from Montreal, when was that? A month ago? Over a month ago?
Just about a month ago, 4 weeks ago, right? I mean, it was we were up there in April. Second week in April, right?
Yeah, and the market we kind of went into it already a little bit leaning off to the sell side. But we kind of went through, and that was right at the pinnacle of all the conversation on the tariff/duty. So we've been in a sell-off since Montreal. And generally that's because what has to be done in order for prices to turn around doesn't happen. I think we've seen a sell-off accelerate in the last week or two. I think if you look at certain numbers, the print numbers, I don't think reflect what was really getting done under the market. And I think it's hard when I can tell you from the spruce side, trading significantly below all the different species, except for 4-inch southern pine, seem to get some strength. But we've been in a sell-off. Now, I will say, had a lot of activity this week where people were sending me emails, texts on X saying, "Hey, I think we're going to turn around here." And I'm like, why? Why are we going to turn around here? I mean, I'm open. My ears, because, and stop me anytime, I'm just going to ramble on these notes I have, because mills are having problems and aren't making any money. And I completely feel for them and I understand that. But, I had my birthday the other day. I'm not going to say how old I am, but my God, when I hear that I think there's going to be some things happen at mills. If I hear that one more time, how many more times do you think I'll hear that in my career? Another 100?
Couple times a year.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I mean, if you think that the market's going to turn around, you have to make a case for it. And talking to other people in the West here, people that run sawmills, not named Hampton, but people I buy from and people I trade with. I mean, it's like a 50-50 split. Some people think something's going to give and that the shorts are starting to come out of the market, which is a sign, right?
Yeah, that's true.
And then,
which is true.
And I mean, but then there's other guys that I talk to that are pretty smart people that I respect. They're like, what's going to make it change? Kind of the show me attitude that you just referred to in your opening statement. I believe personally that we're probably within a couple weeks here of completely bottoming out. I do feel like it's going to happen sooner rather than later. And it's mainly just because people do need to buy some lumber. And, we haven't seen the upper Midwest really kick into gear yet. They've had a pretty tough winter and a slow start to the spring. I think that affects, spruce a little bit, especially on your MSR type grades. And then, you go into the heart of the summer where guys that switch around with spruce and hem fir, they might not, they might actually stick to spruce. And at the same time, the spruce mills are going to be under a tremendous amount of financial pressure going through this summer and into the fall. So you could see improving prices, but not really improving volume.
Yeah,
And
like we've been in supply push market, for the better part of the last 12 plus months at least, right? I mean, and I mean, Ash, I know you were telling me about that little kind of back and forth, and I just want to let you know that based on the futures market today, those people look like they know what they were talking about. We got a board that was $25 higher, closed $15 higher. You got short covering in the cash market, pretty decent short covering in the cash market. And, to Matt's point, if the market's going to bottom out, it's going to take some follow through next week and probably follow through the week after that in order for, a bottom to be in. And then you're going to be in early June and you're going to start saying, hey, we got to get in front of summer shutdowns. What's that going to look like? With the wild card still being what is the demand side? Does demand side stay steady at the level that it's at, or does it? I mean, if it accelerates at all, we got a big bull. We got a big bull market, right? I mean, if you want to buy into, we got the first trade deal done, and we are going to get a big, beautiful tax bill done by summertime. I mean. The guy that was thinking that the market spruce was going to go to $800, he's going to be right in the second half of the year.
Yes, certainly. If things happen, like
there was a lot of ifs in what I said, Ash.
I'm gonna take all the politics aside, except maybe a little bit. Nobody wants. A lot of people, especially half of the country, don't want to see that successful.
Haters,
right?
Haters.
And if it is,
don't
and
be
we, and I mean, we'll.
I'm not sure they don't want to. I have the feeling that they're skeptical, right?
Well, every time something happens today, like something happens today where deals cut with the UK, let's say. I don't know exactly. We'll tweet out, X out. It's not a big deal. It's like, oh, okay, it's not a big deal. Well, the market liked it, but like you said, well, so one of the items that it's interesting how you. Like Matt, you are really good at 2x4 number 3, and you can set and it seems I'm getting better at knowing 2x4 nines, but I don't know certain things. But I can watch nines, and you can see the flow of the market, who is looking for stuff, what the mills are doing, and everything. And we saw nines have been moving for 2 weeks. People, you could see shorts being taken, you could feel it in the market. From the prices people were reporting back all the way along from Florida up to the Carolinas to Virginia to Pennsylvania. They're like, well, we just bought at this price. I'm like, well, that's $30 under what mills are pricing on the bottom. And I know that because we buy every day. And then you could see mills starting to sell more and more, taking a little bit of a counter, but they never got down to those low numbers that I think we're shorted at. And I think you saw that in a lot of items. And then you had some big buyers tell me last week that they were going to start covering stuff for June and July. And it looks like they did. So Gregg, you said something last week and this week, and you said the cash market could go to 480 Chicago, but you didn't think the futures would probably go there. Where are you on like a spruce type on? What are you thinking now on that?
Say that again, Ash.
You said that you thought cash could eventually on a bottom could go to 480 Chicago, right? But the futures may not go down there. Where's your thought now? Where we're at sitting with futures, where the cash market is? I got 7 people sent me over what West Fraser sold blocks at today that never usually send me information.
I guess I'm going to say, for that to happen, like if you got no follow through buying next week, futures expires week, and some other really negative news that could happen. But I'm like right now, I'm saying that there's a pretty good chance at worst that the low low 400s FOB mill, the low 500s FOB Chicago is going to be the low. We may bounce around through into early June, but we typically, the market makes the bottom sometime before, from Memorial Day to 4th of July, that window. The market makes a bottom in there and rallies into late July in front of summer shutdowns. So, I'm going to say that there's a better than 60% chance that's going to happen. I'm not gonna jump up on my, I'm not gonna jump up on the table and say buy. But you and I did that today, so you got to be in to win. We're in the distribution business, so we need to be buying. That having been said, you look at futures now, it's a premium to the cash market. You can hedge in July and lock in a really good basis on anything that you purchased in the last 24 to 48 hours.
The other thing is, if you just look at risk and speculation just from a top down, you look at the price of Tubasix, it's down over $200 in some places, and studs have just gotten beat up. And I hear little birds whispering in my ear that some stud production is going to come off the market next week. We'll see if that actually turns into reality or not. But I just look at things that have gotten beat up, and when studs, which are still pretty liquid, right? I mean, have you guys gone very many days in a row without selling some studs? I mean, I think studs are the bright spot in terms of what we're selling around the room here. I mean, it's harder for us to push, average tally 2x4s and average tally 2x6s into the market than it is for us to move studs. So those are the things, if I was speculating, I'd be buying, and just setting aside, not taking shorts on it at this point. Not after what we've been down for 5-6 weeks in a row now.
Matt, are the U.S. species
most items have fallen,
studs, and so I saw, coastal,
the average item falling maybe 100, right?
Yeah.
Yep. I was just curious on, so what is coastal dry dug fur studs dimension doing? I know coastal held up there, that 4-inch, for a while, and I heard significant discounts on stuff. Some mills were out there even doing dating with people so they could get, not dating like, hey, I'm taking a dinner,
right.
but giving them longer terms,
extra
to buy
terms,
stuff last week, which is lowering your price basically. But
sure.
What did everything get done that had to get done, you think, to move that? Or is there still, like you said, 6 inches still?
There's people that need to buy at the bottom. That bottom was established last fall.
Yeah.
And we never got there. And so I think that ship has sailed, unless, like what Gregg says, if we just go quiet for another 3 weeks here, then maybe we will retouch those fall bottom prices. But that's not been our experience. It seems like we have a pretty good order file on the Doug fir, and we never had to go to the alarm prices that we did 6 months ago. So if you're still hoping to pay the 3-year low price on Doug fir studs, then you're going to probably hold on to that hope for a little bit longer, because it doesn't seem like we're getting there.
What do we think about finger joint studs?
It's like pushing rope. I mean, there's plenty of supply, and the demand is completely average. It's not terrible, but it's not enough demand to consume what's been produced in the last 60 days. And so, either people got to stop making it, or they got to reduce prices.
So the disconnect that I have, Matt, is that, we've seen the price, printing in Dallas, was 640, 650, 630. I think it's 610 now. Ashley and I have been out in the marketplace routinely $50 under print. And, literally the marketplace is like, hey, I can't take them at any price. And yet, I just don't understand how we can continue to have a print price that's so out of line. I think Ash and I, we sold some at $595 when print was $650. We sold some at $575 when print was print was $630, and I think we're $565 today, and we'd probably take less to move the inventory off. And it's crazy when I see an item that has no liquidity, and I just don't, I can't wrap my head. Is it because the print number is so out of line with the market price, or I don't know?
No, it's just the simple relationship between
one thing. If I was going to be a buyer, no, I shouldn't say that. I am a buyer. I've been buying up 2x6 16s.
Right.
Just going like, hey, this is a number that's not going to stay there. The changes are going to come in place. And when I hear people say, yeah, nobody uses 2x6 anymore, then I know it's a good buy, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well,
to flip back to your finger joint comment, I think that you just watch the relationship between Doug fir studs versus finger joints, especially on the 9s and 10s. And if Doug fir starts to go back up, where it's tied or even a premium to what you're willing to sell finger joints for, then you're going to start seeing more people willing to buy finger joints. They'll just switch back and forth.
This is the conversation, Matt, I had with a guy before I left for lunch. If it's a good market, if this is really a good market, we should be able to get rid of all the cats and dogs that you have. And it should flow through to every item. Right now, I've seen a 2x4 9-foot rally, some 2x4 random rally. I haven't seen anything else yet. And I need to see that to say it's a rally, right? So I just know
it's a process. This is not, markets that, sell off the way they have for the last 5-6 weeks. They don't turn in a morning or an afternoon. It takes a little bit of time. I'm going to cut things short here, guys. I gotta roll, but it was always good to catch up. One thing
I want to ask is we got a bunch of extra people watching on X today, and I think there are a lot of futures people.
Okay.
What's everybody's thought going into May expiration here with the May? We got a couple things happening. You got a large amount of open interest as of the last commitment of traders. We'll see the new one that is heavily industry long, which is a head scratcher to me. Especially with the market being a big premium all the way down here. I would have thought it'd be the opposite. You have May almost expiring. You got July was about a $30 spread. I didn't look at today to see what it is. And you're going into after July, you're going into that whole questionable period about when's the new pricing coming on with whatever the percentage is. What should people look at? These aren't any, these are just our ideas. What should people look at as far as futures go right now? One, if you're a speculator, but two, if you're a hedger. If you're a hedger, it's been great because you don't care. Like I heard you tell somebody today, Greg, I hope I lose a whole bunch of money on my hedge because that'd be great. But what should futures traders look at?
I mean, it got beat down for 3 weeks in a row. And so it was due for a correction to the upside.
Yeah.
Do I think that's the trend line for the next 2 months? No, I just think it's going to chop up and down here through expiration. But then you'll see sort of a slow, gradual strengthening of the back months here as we get into these higher tariffs or higher duties, that are coming. And so, look, the fact of the matter is the math doesn't work, and there will be less Canadian lumber coming across the border. So therefore, prices will just naturally have to go up. It's just, they're not going to eat the 40%. It's not going to happen.
What I'm saying is I think a lot of people looking at the commitment of traders and everything else think it's going to happen tomorrow.
No, I think the commitment of traders shows you that the outside industry people have been shorting the heck out of this thing. And the industry seems to want to own it, which, like Greg said, it's kind of a head scratcher to me.
It also shows me somebody's long in there. There's a big long in there.
I'm sure that there's a big long in there. I mean, there's always somebody that overstays their welcome, or
yeah, and it looks like
my recommendation to futures traders is pay no attention to any of that. That all that'll do is all that's going to do is lead you to lose money. You know what?
Yep.
You buy what's cheap and you sell what's expensive, and if you do that and you maintain discipline, you'll do just fine. If you're, I mean, I don't. We speculate on buying cash lumber every single day. Futures is a risk management tool for us. So what do I tell speculators in lumber? Hey, have at it. The more of a premium you put in the market, the happier I am, because that's my opportunity to cash in. I mean, I can't be more blunt than that.
Yeah.
I love you. The more outside money that comes into play, the better, because that provides more dislocation. Matt, remember in 2022 when in like October and January was like $150 premium to November, and you and I were like going, this, and January kept going up. We're
right.
Like, I mean, it was amazing. And they were right. Right, the speculators are right. It went up even higher, but I
still think 700 is kind of the top.
Big losses on futures, but we were okay with it.
Yeah, well, we had cash to back it up, but you and I look at it from, from a hedger's.
Didn't you know that the cash was going to go up by that much? Why were you short? Didn't you know?
One thing we've noticed too, just a few, and Gregg, you talked about this a month ago when I was panicked on trucking. You're like, it'll relieve its. Trucking's kind of backed off from those hard spots, and we're able to get good rates again on the traditional hauls. Once we start looking at other reloads to get closer to things, because we think prices are going to stay high, the trucking is kind of lightened up now from the tough lanes that we had for the past month, and that's helping out a little bit, moving stuff around.
There was the seasonal, and I think there was also the tariff, right? I mean, there was a lot of other products that were, being moved, and that skewed things, I believe.
For sure.
Yeah. So for everybody that's new watching here today, I think we have about 220 viewers live, because a lot of new people signed up on X. We generally do this every week on Wednesday. We kind of had everybody out the past week. This will be cleaned up and put out in a podcast tonight.
We don't have our Southern Pine guy today.
Yeah.
Which is too bad. But
if you are new here, Matt is with Hampton Lumber Sales. You can get a hold of Matt anytime you want. Gregg and I are with Sitka USA. If you want to sign up on the podcast, you can click on it if you want to. If you don't want to, that's fine too. It may not be for you. But we're going to be here every week doing this because we like talking about lumber and lumber trading. And probably I'm going to die at my keyboard doing that someday.
Hey guys, it was short and sweet this week, but always good to catch up. Matt, good to see you, buddy.
All right, guys.
Thanks for listening to this week's episode of The Lumber Word. The Lumber Word podcast is dedicated to engaging conversations about the lumber industry, including trading ideas, market trends, and evaluations of overvalued and undervalued assets. We wish to emphasize that the discussions and opinions expressed in this podcast are purely for informational and entertainment purposes. They should not be considered as financial or investment advice. We encourage our listeners to make their own financial decisions, taking into account their unique circumstances and financial goals, and to seek professional financial advice if necessary.